Good afternoon, friends. This is a paper I was supposed to present in a seminar on constitutional democracy governance in India, dynamics, challenges, and way ahead, which had already been, organized by the PG Department of Political Science, Rajendra University. But due to some, inconvenient situation, I could not present this paper. However, you know, uh, I have a interest because I have prepared this paper. I have a interest for the larger audience uh, that they must know what this paper is all about. In fact, I was invited as a paper presenter in that seminar, and I could not present my paper there due to due to some unhealthy practices. So I am critical about the unhealthy practices. However, I am not critical about any university because no university can be either termed as absolutely good or bad. There are certain practices, and these practices needs to be or needs a kind of reformation so that a bad university can be a good university, and there is possibility that a good university can become a bad university. So I'm critical about the unhealthy practices. I'm not critical about any university or any faculty members until and unless the faculty members are ready to change those unhealthy practices. In fact, I declined to present my paper there. However, I could not decline the idea of not presenting this paper altogether. And for that reason, I think on my YouTube channel, I thought of sharing my paper with all of you. Let me say why I am saying all these things. It is because I am a teacher. And as a teacher, I should be truthful and I should be honest. And I should be the reason for the improvement and development of academic institutions. Hence, as a teacher, I should not tolerate any unethical practices in academics. Let me say why I declined to present my paper there. It is due to two reasons. First is the violation of the equality principles, right? According to the equality principles, equals must be treated equally. Equals must be treated equally. However, in that seminar, I found two persons with same designation in a same institutions, were being planned to be treated differently. One is the resource person, another is the paper presenter. And the second reason is the application of the inequality principle. That is, a person with the same designation but different institution and a little academic experience in comparison to the other was treated as a resource person, but the other was not. Now it is because of this undue treatment I found my dignity hurt and self-respect curtailed, and finally I took a decision of declining my presentation altogether there. Right. So that is the main reason of it. I hope those who are viewing uh, this talk of mine, they must learn that seminar on democracy must uh, be uh, guided by some democratic principles, democratic rules. So if you uh, conduct a seminar on democratically, and you are conducting a seminar on democracy, then uh, this, this this seminar cannot be fruitful, right? So democracy is both a and is a means. So democracy is a end as well as democracy is a means, right? So to uh, make the seminar successful on democracy, democratic means should be applied. Now I'm coming to my paper. The paper, what uh, I was with me in that seminar. The title of that paper uh, was Constitutional Secularism in India, an Interrogation. In fact, this seminar was conducted due to that seminar was conducted to observe the Constitution Day, right? And I personally believe that uh, Ambedkar once said that I am giving this constitution to all of you. Whether it is a good constitution or bad constitution, it depends on you. I mean, it depends on us. So it is we who make and unmake our own constitution, right? And it's my personal understanding that uh, if we will critically engage with Indian constitution, then actually we can make uh, a good constitution for ourselves. Only praising a constitution is not enough, right? So the title of my paper is The Constitutional Secularism in India, an Interrogation. And in this paper, my central question, what I have asked, is that whether Constitution of India is a secular document or not. Whether Constitution of India is a secular document or not. Now, the answer cannot be no, right? The answer is yes. But at the same time, there are certain deficits. There are certain deficits in our constitution. I will let you know what are those deficits, right? So, my position in the very beginning is that our constitution is good, but it can be better, and it can serve better. That's my position in the very beginning. Now, for me, constitution is not sacred. Sacred is something that something that is truth that cannot be changed, right? But certainly uh, uh, Indian constitution, certainly it is a important document or important source of law, rules and regulation. So it is not sacred because it is a human creation. It is a human creation, and it has been amended. It is not the last document which cannot be changed. Hence, it is not sacred, right? So, thinking Indian Constitution sacred, it means you are not interested to amend the Constitution, right? So, if you will not amend the Constitution, then uh, it may produce some serious consequences for the coming generation. I have already said when Ambedkar gives the constitution to people of India, he says that I am giving this constitution to all of you. Whether it is a good constitution or a bad constitution, it depends on you. Now, good people can make use of constitution and even make and unmake it with positive spirit. Now, whether it will be a good constitution or bad constitution, ultimately it depends on the people. Now, if people are good, then the constitution will be good, right? Now, bad people can make use of constitution, even make and unmake it with negative spirit. Now, if people are good, constitution will be good. Now, if people are bad, then the constitution will be a bad document. So in a sense that it is also said by many people that constitution has not failed us, rather we have failed the constitution. As if we are all bad people, constitution is it's a correct document. Now, I slightly disagree with it. There are many deficits in the constitution as well, and there are many good people, right? We cannot blame people. We cannot say that the people have failed the constitution, right? So it is partially correct. Uh, so constitution has failed the people. It is partially correct. People have failed the constitution. It is also partially, correct. Right. Some people believe that constitution has not failed us, rather we have failed the constitution. Hence, the protection of constitution requires good people, right? So, in the first place, good people must be there, and it is these good people who do not glorify things. Good people, they don't believe in the glorification, right? Or in other words, glorifying constitution cannot make us good. Rather, critically engage with constitution will make us good. Critical engagement with the constitution. Glorification, uh, you know, it will not help us, right? People who glorify certain things, they are not good people. They cannot critically engage. Now, what is this critical engagement? Now, critical engagement is possible only when one will be a selfless person. Now, a selfless person can critically engage. Now, if you are a selfish person, then critical engagement, you cannot have critical engagement. Rather, you will end up glorifying things. Now, in my presentation, I have tried to, do it. I have tried to critically engage with the constitution. I always tell to my students that we are the social doctors. And if we are doctors, then our patient is the society. Now, in society, you will find many diseases. Now, you have to, investigate into the society. You have to find out the diseases. You have to examine the diseases. Then you have to prescribe certain things to the society as a social scientist, so that the society will be cured and individual will lead a good life, right? So this critical engagement is very much required. Observing a constitution day, it means an in-depth critical engagement with the constitution, then finding some of the problems with the constitution, or finding some of the problem in the people, then thinking about those problems, then correcting those problems. It is the main objective of observing a constitution day. Now, coming to my topic, that before I introspect, an introspection means an interrogation, or introspection means a critical engagement. Now, before I critically engage with constitutional secularism, uh, I think I must, uh, I must deal with, how to understand secularism, right? How to understand, secularism, or what is secularism, or why is secularism, right? Now, let me deal with the second question part. First, why is secularism? Secularism, basically, it is a, state policy. It is a state policy of treating people in a secular way. I mean, the state will not have any official religion. State is always uh, for all, right? uh, in fact, in a multicultural society, secularism is a principle of the state. Now, how the state should behave towards the individual, whether individuals should have religious freedom or not. So basically, secularism deals with interrelation between three entities: individual, religion, and the state. Now, secularism deals with the relation between the individual and the religion. Secularism deals with the relation between the religion and the state, and secularism deals with the relation between state and the individual. I'm just taking 1 minute break. Oh, sorry, I'm coming back. So primarily, secularism deals with these three kinds of relationship. From the relation between the individual and religion, one character of secularism, it comes or germinates, that is the freedom of religion. From the relation between the religion and the state, the second character of secularism it emerges, that is separation between religion and politics. And from the relation between the state and individual, the third character of secularism emerges, that is the citizenship. So, constitutional secularism means the constitutional provisions on freedom of religion, the constitutional provision on separation between the religion and politics, and the constitutional provision on citizenship. Right. So this is what secularism is all about. So as I have said that secularism is because of the multicultural nature of the society. Now why secularism? Why the state must follow the principles of secularism? In fact, the straight answer is that uh, in a multicultural society, the state should be secular because the state has to combat the domination, either the interreligious domination or intra-religious domination. Now, what is intra-religious domination? First is intra-religious domination. Intra means within. Within a religious group, there are different, gradation categories, and there is always a infighting between these categories. And the why infighting is there? Because each group tries to dominate over the other. So you can find competition within the religious group, competition among the religious group. The intention is that how to dominate the other. Now, in such a situation, a strong group always prevail upon the weak group. Like a strong individual always weak prevail upon the weak individual. Now, to combat this intra-religious domination and intra-religious domination, the state must follow the principles of secularism. It's clear. Why secularism? Because uh, intra-religious domination and inter-religious domination is a very common character of Indian society. Hence, Indian society requires a secular state. Now, when we talk about secularism, there are two versions of secularism. One version is the political secularism, another version is the secularization process. If you remember, I said that secularism primarily deals with, or there are three characters of secularism: freedom of religion, separation of religion and politics, then citizenship. Now, all these three are, or all these three represent the political secularism. That secularism from the state side, or in other words, we can say that this is the hegemonic secularism. Mostly, this hegemonic secularism, a doctrine which has been influenced by the Renaissance tradition. Mostly, this political secularism or the hegemonic secularism, mostly it has been designed with the European, experience. Now, the other version of secularism is the secularization process, and this version of secularism, uh, you know, uh, mostly, uh, it is related with the Indian tradition or the revivalist tradition. That our tradition was very much secular. There are secularism within our culture, religions, ethos, tradition. Even in different religion, you can find many secular values. So secularization process demands how to rediscover all those secular values from our own traditions. Right. Now this is this is very important to uh, this is very important for us to understand before I enter into, or before I interrogate the constitutional secularism. This is very much fundamental. We must understand this aspect. Now coming to my topic, I said that that it is not the people who have failed the constitution. Even there are many deficits in the constitution, and those deficits needs to be discovered, and needs these deficits needs to be inquired, and this deficits needs to be fulfilled. Now, what is the crisis of Indian secularism? There are three crises of Indian secularism. One is goals are not well defined. Second, the state-centric Indian secularism has reduced religious communities as passive entities. And third, there is wide gap between secularism and secularization process. So the first crisis is that the goals are not well defined. Now, if I will say that in constitution goals are not well defined, then many people will react negatively to me. But let me give you an example. There are many. I'm just giving you one example. In constitution, you can find the right to propagation. Now, if you want to understand the constitution, you know, deeply or appropriately, then you cannot do so without going to the Constituent Assembly debate. Now, in the Constituent Assembly debate, if you visit on the issue of right to propagation, then you will find that, in fact, this right to propagation, that is, I mean, that there was strong Christian lobby for this, phrase, but Hindus were against it. They were not interested in the right to propagation. But it is due to the Christian lobby. Finally, at the end, the right to propagation was there in the constitution, right? So it is because of this right to propagation one can find issues of conversion, dharmantrikarana, issues of conversion in different parts of the India. Especially in Kandhamal, you can find how two communal riots occurred due to these conversion issues, which has its root in the right to propagation. Now, if you see the constitution, then you may not find that what is exactly that right to propagation, right? What to propagate, what not to propagate, how to propagate. Now, all these, the answer of these questions, that is not mentioned in the constitution. Only the propagations are there. There is also respective limitations in each right. You can find respective restriction, but that restriction has also not been well defined. So in a sense, in a critical juncture, you may not find uh, in the Indian constitution that goals are well defined, right? And the second and third problem is quite interrelated, right? The second problem is that in state-centric Indian secularism has reduced religious communities as a passive entities. Now, this is a problem that the political secularism has marginalized the secularization process. Secularization process basically means a thought of accepting secular values within the religious tradition. Now, this political secularism does not accept these religious communities as secular communities, right? And as a result, you can find there is a wide gap between secularism and secularization process. So one can find this state-centric Indian secularism, uh, it unable to carry out mass mobilization program as an extra constitutional mechanism to build the political secularism. So it means the state centric secularism uh, has no social base, right? So it is more it is imposed on communities. People don't, I mean, people of different religious community, they do not accept the secular values out of their free will. Rather, they are afraid of states, they're afraid of punishment, and due to that afraid, they they are forced to follow the secular values or principles, right? So that's why this Indian secularism, it failed to carry out the mass mobilization program, right? Political forces depends upon the legal constitutional path, right? So do not people in society do not uh, accept the secular values. People in society do not practice the secular values, values that has been imposed by the state, because all these secular values suggested by the state is not and is not part and parcel of individuals social behavior, individual tradition, right? So thereby political forces are failing in their duty to connect with masses and their social imaginary across religious spectrum. So that's why there is a gap between the state and the society, right? People like Ashish Nadi, T.N. Madan, Partho Chatterjee, they hold that Indian secularism is heavily, reliant on the state power to promote secularism, which is a tendency of post-enlightenment rationality in the West, and this ignores or marginalizes many forms of communitarian practices of religious tolerance. So the anti rationalist thinkers like Ashish Nandi, T.N. Madan, Partho Chatterjee, they are critical about the Western rationalism. They are critical about the Western rationalism, and they hold that there are practices of religious tolerance, communitarian practices of religious tolerance in India, and there are secular values in those practices, right? Now constitution instructs state to initiate different reforms, to enact appropriate laws like uniform civil code, ensuring women's equal right, Dalit entry to the Hindu temple, religious freedom of minority. So it is the same constitution which instructs the state to formulate certain rules, regulation, to initiate certain reforms. So thereby constitution directly direct the state to handle the issues of interreligious domination and intra-religious domination. So the constitution empowers the state to handle the issues of intra-religious domination and inter-religious domination, and the state through the constitutional through the legal means, the state tries to impose those value on Indian society and on Indians. Now the question is that to what extent the social imaginary of people have been reformed by the master reform narrative of Indian constitution. Now Indian constitution gave this responsibility to state to reform. Now the question is that to what extent the social imaginary of the people have been reformed so far with the intervention of the state, with the master reform narrative of Indian constitution. Now there is another problem with the master. I mean, this is the first question. That question, it is subjected to interpretation. It is not accepted that Indian social imaginary has been reformed, right? Till now, the infighting between the society and state, it is continuing on several issues, and one can take the example of recent debates on Indian, especially Odisha media, on it is between the theist and atheist on solar eclipse or moon eclipse. One can find these differences. Now there is another problem with the master reform narrative of Indian constitution. That is that it does not give the equal opportunities to Christian and Muslim Dalits like Hindu Dalits. Now this constitution talks about reforming Hinduism, identifying Dalits within the Hinduism and giving a kind of affirmative action to them. But the same constitution is silent about, uh, you know, Christian Dalit and Muslim Dalits. It is silent about reforming the other religious tradition. Now the question arises whether the caste is there in Christian or Muslim community or not. Right. Now, people may argue that there is no caste or there is caste. But interestingly, let me take two Indian philosopher, Ambedkar and Nehru. Now, both Ambedkar and Nehru, they knew that caste and caste-based discrimination was there or is there within the Islam and Christianity. Both these stalwarts did not bother to debate on reservation of Dalit Christian and Dalit Muslim, right? So they were no, in fact, when Ambedkar was thinking to convert himself, he did not convert. People from Christianity, people from Islam, they came to Ambedkar. They wanted Ambedkar to convert to their respective religion, but Ambedkar did not, because Ambedkar knew that the institution, I mean the caste-like institution are there within the Christianity, within the Islam. Nehru also knew it. Now, besides Ambedkar and Nehru, all Christian and Muslim representatives in the Constituent Assembly, they ignored the issues of caste in the religious minority, in the Islam and Christianity. Ambedkar and Nehru were deeply worried about the reforms among Hindus and wanted appropriate measures to be placed in the Indian Constitution, right? I mean, this is the problem actually. Reform, I mean, if you support the reform, then reform should be done to all religious communities. If reform is required for the Hindu community, Hindu religion, so also reform is required for the Islamic community or Islam. Reform is required in Christianity, right? Only reforming one religious group and uh, not talking about reform of other religious tradition makes Indian constitution is very weak. Now, in fact, this is the beginning of the crisis of secularism in India. Right. This is the crisis of secularism. Secularism basically means that it is for all, right? It is for all. Secularism is not for Hindus only. Secularism is also for Muslim and Christianity. If secularism is all about reformation, then reformation is also required for Hindus, for Islam, for Christianity. Now the secular state gave a wrong signal to Hindus that Hindus must reform first. Why? Why Hindus must reform first? If secularism is all about reformation, then this reformation is a requirement of different religious communities. Now, as a result, Dalit Christian and Dalit Muslim feel alienated from the constitutional secularism. Why Hindu Dalits will get the reservation facility? Why not Christian Dalit? Why not Hindu Dalit? Why the constitution is based on a false consciousness that there is no caste in Christianity and Hindus? Right. So this is the main problem with Indian constitution from secularism, I mean on secularism aspect. So I think that secularism, I mean the Indian constitution with respect or with regard to secularism needs a kind of rethinking and I mean reformation for Islam and Christianity is also the requirement of present time, right? And connection between, I mean, the political secularism must connect with the secularization process, right? The political secularism, instead of becoming hegemonic, the political secularism must take into account of different secular values of different religious tradition. Then only the gap between the society and the state can be, minimized. So constitution should be, amended, uh, amended towards creating a harmonious relation between the society and the state, between the state and the religion, right? Then only I think, uh, you know, constitution can better serve to, uh, Indian citizen. So that's it. I mean, that was the gist of my paper. I was supposed to present it, but I could not present it there. I said the reasons why I could not present it. Uh, I mean, on Indian Constitution, on deficits, and we need to uh, create a better condition, better constitution, for ourselves and for the next generation. So, thank you. Jai Hind.